Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 4th annual Law Tech Festival 2023 here in Nairobi. So for the next 2 days, you're going to be throwing yourself into countless conversations that count not just to the future of Africa, but to the world itself. Having attended this conference now for 3 years, I'm really blessed to have a perspective on the growth of the conference, not just in terms of numbers, which is of course fantastic, but more so about the depth and the richness of the conversation. And when we talk about the intersectionality of interest, of expertise, this convergence of law and tech, and those conversations have been happening here over the last 2 days.
This year's Africa Law Tech Festival hosted over 2,300 delegates from across 43 countries under the theme of the AFCFTA and the single digital market. The festival comprised of a wide variety of sessions, including roundtable discussions for policymakers, workshops for civil society organizations, fishbowl sessions, lightning talks, panel sessions, masterclasses, and a hackathon.
Africa is now one of the most dynamic geographies on digital. Of course, there are challenges, but the energy, the enthusiasm of the innovators, of the policymakers is palpable, and Africa is poised for great achievements in the digital domain. And it's been great to see participation from Africa in these discussions on the Global Digital Compact. And my call to action is for African entrepreneurs, African policymakers, to see this as a once-in-a-generation opportunity and shape the digital future together.
Within just a couple of years, the festival has earned a reputation for being the event at which to discuss the latest digital policy trends with leading tech and legal experts on the African continent. We look forward to digital trade becoming an integral part of the AFCFTA and of a wider digital transformation of the continent's digital economies.
And open source is not just about software. It's about freedom, it's about diversity, it's about inclusivity, participation, openness, accountability, decentralization, even sovereignty that we were talking about. So those are the things that are important, not just to us as Africans, but to Mozilla Corporation as well.
Co-Develop is one of the funders of the Africa Law Tech Festival. Our work primarily is to support countries in the adoption of digital public infrastructure through the use of open source digital public goods.
The world has become so small because of digitalization. It's easier now to get access into markets sometimes which we could not have accessed. And this is what Africa Continental Free Trade Area is trying to solve so that we have a market of 1.4 billion. And if you have such a market, then you know you can trade with people in Monrovia or in South Africa without moving.
The only way we can do this is through the harmonization, through the cooperation at the continental level. That's the only way we're going to build the single markets that we need, especially in a data economy, to get the scale and scope we need to compete globally. It will also require us, however, to collaborate at a global level as well. And so we need a much stronger voice in those international forums of global governance that represent African interests, that we caucus and present in those interests in a way that will take this agenda forward.
How are we going to achieve a single continental market if the legal regime is fragmented into regional economic communities, into national laws and regulations? If those principles are fragmented and are different, we are not going to have smooth flow of digital trade.
What we're seeing is that capacity is a big issue, and capacity on many different levels. The first one is really that the agenda should be based on open, transparent, interoperable and inclusive cyberspace development for the continent. The second principle is that it must follow a multi-stakeholder approach involving governments, civil society, private sector and the technical community. The third principle is shared responsibility between national, regional, continental and global stakeholders. And then the fourth principle is that we must really anchor this on local expertise. So we really must aim to develop local expertise that will enable us to chart our own way forward in terms of the way in which we will address cyber development issues.
Right now, Africa accounts for 17% of the world population. but unfortunately, we only account for approximately 3% of global trade. So we really count on you. And like I said, the youth is what is our greatest asset to make sure that by 2050, when we account for 25% of the world population, that at least our share of global trade will be close to 20%. So we really count on gathering like these ones to steer some of the ideas that you have, because you have the solution to address those challenges that the continent is facing.
As part of the festival this year, we held the AI and Digital Trade Tech Policy Hackathon. 110 participants took part in the hackathon, creating 14 groundbreaking solutions which used large language models and machine learning to address information, language, compliance, and digitization barriers to digital trade. 7 groups were shortlisted to present their solutions on the main stage, where a team of judges deliberated and recommended 3 final winners whose solutions stood out. The winning teams will join Lawyers Hub's Africa Law Tech Accelerator, where we'll offer support to make the solutions exceptional and startup scale.
My name is Yaami Ture. I am coming from the Gambia, West Africa. What I find actually very interesting about this conference is, one, the lightheartedness, because as legal practitioners, we tend to be very rigid. And this conference brings together a lot of fun, but serious and enlightening conversations around data governance, data protection, but most importantly, the digital space and the digital market. And this is very important because looking at the way the digital space is going, we can't live without technology.
For a long time, we've been trying in the East African society to come together as bar associations so that when I'm admitted in Kenya, I can practice in Uganda, Tanzania, or Rwanda. And what I liked about the conference is the bar association presidents were all here, and they were suggesting that we can have uniform laws so that once I'm admitted in Kenya, I can go and practice anywhere else across the borders. So for me, that was a great take home.
This is my second time at the festival, and I really enjoyed the theme. And the most thing that I found interesting is the issue of harmonization of the laws in terms of the cross borders. I feel like in terms of the data protection, we are able to protect our own data. But when it comes to sharing it with another country, and now we are talking about the African continent in itself, it becomes a trust issue. So for me, I was able to appreciate the fact that harmonization is a conversation that was broadened. It's a conversation that needs to take place. And I appreciate the stakeholders and the planners for this year.
It's been an amazing 2 days here in Nairobi at the African Law Tech Festival because the topic is very current, and the most interesting part of that, the debate is involving the next generation youth law students who are more digital minded, more techno savvy, really now looking at the nitty-gritty of using technology to advance the economy and to change the way we work and perceive business in a different angle. It's been an amazing insight for those of us who are next generation above. We are learning from our youth and seeing what the main issues of concern are and how we are going to work together to improve the ecosystem and also to change the things that we can change at the moment. It's been amazing.